How's it going, guys? We're here with Nightmare Files and listening to 3 disturbing true hitchhiking horror stories.
Nightmare Files.
Let's do this.
This didn't happen to me. It happened to my girlfriend. At the time, my girlfriend and I were attending college together. It was a smaller school and a pretty quiet place, so most of the students were from the area. My girlfriend, Katie, was from the area. I came from a distance, so I lived in the dorm at the college. Katie and I would hang out together in my dorm between classes, and even some evenings and weekends when we wanted to be together but didn't feel like going out. It was a Friday night and both of us, being pretty introverted, decided not to do anything crazy, so we planned to spend the night in my room. She wanted some time to go home after classes and assured me that she'd be back around 8. Katie had a car, but she never liked driving it, unless she had to pack around her instrument, so she just usually took the bus. That Friday night, she had a pretty unnerving experience in doing so, and it freaked both of us out. She was a small girl, definitely didn't look like a college-age student. She was short, thin, and quiet. Standing alone at the bus stop in the dark was probably not ideal, but she preferred taking that over her own car. She waited for the bus stop, but then a van drove past her. Then again, then again, then again. It looked like a creeper van, you know, those vans that have no windows.
Even though you stood around, right? That's some screwed up shit, dude. You think you teach your children and all that shit about the stranger danger crab, but no, not at all, man, not here.
In the back. She was a bit suspicious, but told herself he was probably just lost or killing time. The van then pulled over right in front of the stop, and the driver rolled down his window very slowly. "Isn't it cold out here?" he asked. "The bus is always late. Hop in, and I'll give you a ride." Katie declined politely and took a few steps back, trying to show him she wasn't interested in anything he wanted.
Smart.
He asked again if she was absolutely sure that she didn't want to ride, and he drove away after she turned him down again. The bus arrived moments later, and she was relieved to step on. But, to her horror, she then noticed the same van right behind the bus. She was the only one on the bus also. The van followed the bus directly, and Katie texted me to explain the situation. I could tell that she was panicking, which isn't uncommon for her. I offered to talk to her on the phone to calm her nerves, and she accepted. We talked about school and things to get her mind off of it. Once her stop came, she felt safe enough to hang up the phone and walked a short distance to the college. When she arrived at my room, she was hysterical. It took me over an hour to comfort her enough to get the story out of her. And this is what she told me. The van had stopped following the bus after getting stuck at a red light, giving the bus a chance to get ahead. However, after getting off at her stop, the van sped up to her. He was driving like a maniac at this point, going at least 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. The bus had already pulled away when the van pulled up right next to her. It had pulled over right where she intended to go to get to the college. So in panic, she bolted the other way, and the driver raced after her. When she turned her head to look behind her, she noticed he was holding a large butcher knife, waving it in front of him in her direction. She did a wide turn to get back on track to the college, the man following close right behind her. Lucky for her.
Like, I don't understand that. It's like you would think that there'd be people around, right? Especially if it's a busy area or something. I think they said it was out in the countryside, so if that was true, it's out in the countryside, well, I don't know, man. Run, rabbit, run, right? Devil's Rejects. Love it. Actually, no, it was the first one. What the hell movie was that? Oh, I can't remember the name of it. The first movie, then the second movie was Devil's Rejects. Shit, I can't. Oh, House of a Thousand Corpses. There we go.
He lost his footing on an icy patch on the road, and his fall delayed him enough for her to get away. When he got back up, he didn't chase after her again, but instead yelled out, "I will find you, and I will kill you." Since then, she's always taken her own car instead of the bus.
Damn.
Okay, so I'll just start this by saying my dad's a character. All of my friends loved him growing up because he could entertain you just by talking to him. This attitude is what initially led me to question the legitimacy of this story for a long time. Now that I'm a bit older, I could tell this one cuts deep every time we make him tell it. Usually, he talks in a very upbeat and active tone, but when my brothers and I first heard him tell this story, or talk about it in general, his tone completely changes. It's as if the color just rushes from his face. It's obvious he doesn't enjoy talking about it. Okay, now to the story. He was about 18 at the time. From pictures, he seemed like an athletic, approachable teen. He was living in the Gary Whiting area of northwest Indiana. Sometime later in the evening, my dad, who's been a smoker for roughly 50 years of his life, decided to hitchhike to his local convenience store. He has a knack for talking about places or events as if you were there. This was an odd thing to do, considering the shop was only a couple of miles away from his house. Eventually, a truck pulls to the side of the road. It was a baby blue pickup truck, to be exact. Apparently there were two men in the truck, probably both in their 40s or so, pretty normal looking. He said that the driver was a bit burly, sort of looked like Jackie Gleason. The truck was only a 3-seater, so the man in the passenger side had to move to the middle. No words spoken, apart from the driver asking where he was going. This didn't strike my father as odd, so he proceeded to sit in silence, not suspecting anything. Suddenly, out of nowhere, one of the guys randomly burst into laughter. According to my father, this wasn't your ordinary laugh, but something much more diabolical. Surely enough, the driver looks at my father, with what he claimed was the devil's eyes now chiming in with the laughter. As you could suspect, they start to go a different route. My dad knew they weren't heading anywhere near the desired destination. He was trying to play it cool, wait for his chance. Luckily, a couple of minutes later, they finally hit a red light. The driver slowly crept his arm across the cab and starts caressing my dad's neck.
Jesus.
I guess fight or flight kicked in, and a surge of adrenaline came about. He unlocked the door and bolts out, not looking back. He said he hid near a local church and watched as they drove around looking for him. Some years later, my dad was watching the news when the mugshot of a man popped on the screen. His heart sunk. The man was undoubtedly the same who had picked him up hitchhiking. That man was John Wayne Gacy.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
When I was 17, I didn't have a driver's license. Most of the time I walked or hitchhike. There was this one night. There weren't that many cars on the road, and it was very cold. And this man pulled over. When the guy pulled over, I took a good look at the guy and figured I could take him.
The funny part is, dude, I used to do that too, like the hitchhiking and shit like that. When I was younger, before I even had my license and everything, I used to go get drunk in a town that was like 15, 20 miles away. It took about 4 hours to walk. Usually a bike, it was about maybe hour and a half. Oh yeah, I miss the good old days. Years go by quick.
If he tried anything. He was on the slender side and had a strange frailness about him, even though he looked healthy enough. I got into the car after we agreed on the destination. We exchanged names and I warmed my fingers up in front of the heating vent. He spoke quietly, asking a few questions along the lines of, was I local and how did I like living there? He said he only been here for a few months, but found it beautiful and hoped he could find happiness there. That comment struck me as a little odd, but I brushed it off. It began to snow and the road quickly got slippery. So he slowed and he kept his eyes straight out the windshield, driving silently. I was okay with that, as small talk was never my forte. About 10 minutes later, I noticed the car near the intersection we were approaching seemed to be sliding, so I said, "Watch out." He immediately hit the gas, shooting through the intersection and burst out with, "Don't ever scream at me." Needless to say, I was taken aback. I said, "Look, this is close enough. Just pull over here and I can get there." He didn't seem to hear me. So I said, "Richard, did you hear me? I said you can pull over here and let me out." But no response. He just stared straight ahead, driving faster now than he did when it started snowing. To say I was scared doesn't seem to cover the depth of the fear that began to rise in me. I didn't know if I should stay quiet or speak, but I was damn sure not going to yell after his outburst. After about a mile, he began to mumble under his breath. I couldn't quite make out what he was saying, but I assumed he was speaking to me. So I said, "What did you say? I couldn't hear you." He began to speak quietly and rapidly, saying things like, "You're always yelling at me. I've told you time and time again, do not yell at me. I don't appreciate it. No, you don't listen, you don't listen." And I was just sitting there looking at him. I was at a complete loss. I didn't know what to say in response or if I
I know what you should do. Hop out of the motherfucking car, man. What the f you doing? Jesus.
should say anything at all. I contemplated just jumping out of the car, but nixed that idea when I realized the door lock was missing. There was just a silver-lined hole where it should have been. I started to cry and debate with myself about causing an accident by grabbing the wheel and hoping for the best, when he suddenly looked at me for the first time since I had gotten in the car. He blinked several times, rapidly, then slowed the car, pulling into a gas station. I waited to see if he unlocked the doors, not wanting to say anything to set him off again. After a minute or two, he quietly said, "I think I better let you out of here." And he hit the button to the door locks, and he opened the door. I wasn't about to hesitate, so I jumped out of the car as if I were on fire. I was about to turn and walk into the gas station when he called my name. He looked so damn sad and I hesitated. He apologized, said he was sorry if he had frightened me, that he never would have harmed me. And he asked if I'd be able to get home okay. I said I would and closed it.
I'd be like, "Dude, don't even worry about it. I'm fine right here. You can go now." Dude, blah. Goddamn. Yeah. Nah, man, I probably wouldn't even say a word to him. Just be like, "Nope, I'm good, dude. See you later." Wouldn't continue the conversation, nothing.
The door. He began to pull out of the gas station, but stopped suddenly. He just sat there for a couple of moments, his head down. I froze, wondering what the hell was up, and was about to run into the gas station, but he opened his window and yelled at me, waving something in his hand, my hat. I left it on his seat.
"You can keep it, buddy. You can keep it."
I slowly approached the side of his car, and he handed it to me, apologizing again. I didn't know what else to say, so I just said, thanks. I watched as he drove off, making sure he was out of sight before moving on so he wouldn't know which direction I was heading. As I walked, I went to put my hat back on, and a piece of paper fell out of it. Folded into a paper was a $100 bill. The paper said, "I'm sorry. Please take a cab and don't hitchhike anymore tonight." I didn't. In fact, it was the last time I ever hitchhiked in my life. Will never, ever do that again.
I bet. I freaking bet. Wow. But yeah, freaking, I've been following Nightmare Files for a while, and he's got some good content. I love his channel. And I have to personally thank you, Nightmare Files, for recommending me to Deadbug Says. It's some good shit, man. You guys are the best. Put a lot of time in your videos. Do a lot of good work. But everybody else, you gotta go to his channels. You gotta subscribe. Check them out. Hell yeah. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. And I haven't decided what I want to do next, but I will be doing more Nightmare Files videos in the future. And I will leave Deadbugs Says his channel in the description below also. But yeah, you guys definitely need to check him out. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.